Monaghans Galway, located on the Tuam Road, is the leading dealership in Galway for new SKODA, CUPRA and Seat models. Now is the perfect time to order your new car or visit Monaghans.ie. Today I am joined by Eddie Hoare of St Michael's. St Michael's were crowned intermediate county champions at the weekend after a replay and after extra time against Calshart, but they finally got over the line and they make the jump straight back up to senior football. Eddie, how does that sound?
Yeah, definitely, Paul. I suppose this time last year, having gone down to intermediate after being up there for 16 years, it was definitely a disappointment within the club. A feeling within the club that we could hold our own at senior, but equally an acknowledgement that coming up from intermediate was going to be a big challenge. And to be fair to the club and to everyone involved, they stood up to that challenge. And it wasn't always easy. The first round was a challenge against Moore. I think looking back, it might have been a good thing. It refocused the minds that intermediate is a much different ball game to senior. And from that day on, I think we progressed and improved day on day. And the reason I think we are back in senior football is we put in the work, the grafters put in. There was a really good structure put in place, led out by Michael Hughes, and it's no coincidence that we ended up taking home the Connacht Cup last Saturday evening.
What were the celebrations like?
Pure euphoria afterwards, and I would say a sense of relief as well within the group, because again, going back to last year, the disappointment, and Mike touched on it a few times, the feeling in the dressing room in Spiddle when we lost to Killannon and ultimately were relegated to intermediate. It was a difficult place for a lot of people to be. The likes of myself, maybe Frank Daly, Greg Rogan, Jamie Downs, who would have been there and involved in 2008 and probably broke into the intermediate structure in 2003, 2004 after winning minors, would have known the efforts it took to get up and then to be up in senior level. Initially, it was a big challenge to remain and stay there. And over the course of the few years, we became an established senior team, getting to final in 2014. But again, going down last year, no club wants to be. Every club, I guess, wants to compete at the top level. We won a minor in 2020. I think it's important for that group of players to be playing at the top level of senior football, and to be straight, I think they have the ability to do that, and hopefully can kick on next year and just show the potential that they have.
We've seen with some of the younger players, they stay going until even last night. They got the Monday club out of it. But for yourselves to even go back and celebrate as a team and around with the St Michael's community, the people of Westside, that must have been special on Saturday night.
Really special. And it was noted. It was we went back to Westside after leaving Tuam, went straight to Westside, gathered in Duns and walked across as a team collectively. There was a podium set up. I think Johnny Walsh, Oil and Coal, provided the trucks, so the team are up there, and Mike, the chair, firstly, Paddy O'Malley, addressed the crowd, and then Mike, as manager, introduced the players and spoke about how much it meant to the club, but also the future of the club. There was young people lying the front of the stage, young players, boys and girls, that are down every Thursday evening with the girls' club and every Sunday morning with the Juvenile Academy. And we see the great work that's been done there. And I say it from experience, from being a young person growing up. I remember in the noughties, and we said it before the intermediate final on the Thursday night, Mike asked everyone, why do you do it? And some different reasons, some for family, some for but it all boiled down to the consensus and the general theme was the pride of the club and what the blue jersey stands for, the history within the club, the efforts that have been put in since the club was founded in 1956, and it's a special club to be involved in. I was fortunate that my parents settled in Dangan in the early 90s. And I just remember at the time in 1993, it would have been Newcastle at the time would have won the community games, and there was Frank Daly was actually on that community games team. They won the All-Ireland and went to Mosney. I think my brother actually captained that side, the Moran twins, if you remember them. They were outstanding players. They were midfield on that team. But you're looking at these guys when you're, what was I, probably 5 or 6 in Mosney, and all you want to do is get to Mosney to replicate them. And then following that team, I would say they went on and won 2001. They won the minor with John Rowan, John Kenny, and Pat Regan were involved, and Joe Corcoran. And again, then our team behind them would have sort of said, look what that meant to the club in terms of winning a minor final. So again, we had very fortunate, again, volunteers within the club. Peter Kern was putting hours with us as a young group going up through the ranks. He was involved, and I think Pat Regan again was involved with that group. And all we wanted to do was emulate the boys and become minor champions, and that's something we've done. And it's that just community feel that everyone is collectively in it together. And we relived them moments with the younger crop of Conal Gallagher, Gary Higgins, Ethan Fiorentini, when playing Sheridan, led them to a minor title in 2020. So again, there's just a rich history within the club, a humbleness of where we came from, and just to acknowledge the efforts. And there's a recurrent theme throughout the club. It's good volunteers that have been involved for years, and that goes back to, you see, Joe Corcoran was there, Tommy Kelly was there the last day. I mentioned Tom Nally, John Rowan, John Kenny, Peter Kern. You have like so many, Pat Regan, Tony Burke was involved with us for a number of years, and they're all volunteers within the club. You have the likes of Jerry Dolan, and all these names are the lads that are doing it there. They're either involved with teams or they're putting their hand in their pocket to support teams. And then now I see the new current crop. You have like young blood coming through to the management structure. You have Michael Hughes, who's, again, I played minor with Mike in 2003. He won a minor with Mellows that year. We lost a minor final to Currafin ourselves. I was only 16 at the time, but Mike would have been, I think, either 17 or he was minor. And he's brought in the likes of Michael Hochter around him, Mark Ban, Patrick Casey has come in as conditioning coach, Peter Tormey and his twin brother Kevin. You have Dave Mullally there as a physio. So like, it just shows it's such a collective effort to get to where we came yesterday. Mike always touched on, I think on the stage afterwards, 144 collective sessions, I think he said. So once every 2.5 days, he said we were out either in the train station, we were either on West Side or down in Laurel Park doing running. And champions are made from the graft you put in, but also probably the hurt of last year stood to the lads, and they responded in spades, and well, they deserved their. I did the one day. I joined them for a while on Sunday. I was otherwise engaged with the Taoiseach was in Galway on Sunday, so I had to meet him. But well, the young lads deserved their second night, and some went for a third night. And you know, if they train tonight and they want to go for a few drinks after, I'm sure Mike won't step in their way.
From your own perspective, like 2008, you obviously went on, and it was such a successful year. But this year, obviously, you've had a role. I suppose that's a lot different to 2008. How's that been for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like in 2008, that structure, I would mean midfield, and I sort of compare it to some of the younger lads coming through who'd have been minors now, and I would have been a minor in 2004. And my why as to why I wanted to do it back then was to give myself a chance to maybe be a Galway senior. And I look at Conal Gallagher, who has been outstanding for us this year. You look at the likes of Gary Higgins, and if they're to have an opportunity to become Galway seniors, and they want to be playing senior football. And I remember just going back myself in 2008, I would have been midfield with Patrick Regan. Greg Rogan captained us at 11. Greg Rogan captained us at 11. He had Alan Glynn at full back, Jamie Downs at number 6. And these guys, like, they all had potential to go on and represent Galway in the maroon and white, be it previously at minor level, at under 21 level, or indeed at senior level, which a few of us had the privilege of doing. So I think it gives a great platform for them lads. In terms of my role, obviously it was a lot different this year. I'm probably at the latter stages of my career. I normally would have been involved in the intermediates at the time, at the seniors, and would have been probably to the forefront in terms of progressing at intermediate and senior level. But this year it's important as an experienced member to, I suppose, in some way, shape and form. I obviously had my commitments early in the year as mayor, came back and tried to just channel as positively as possible, put support structures in place for the lads as best as possible. I remember after losing to Moore, I like text Mike at the time and sort of said, just this can be the making of the group if we channel it positively. We were playing Menlaw then in the next round, and I think that was an important time to sort of, maybe for some of the more experienced members, to sort of dust down and sort of just channel that positive message and reassure the lads that like the work has done, it can turn, but it's not going to be easy. And I think that message was communicated to the group, and they responded, beating Menlaw, beating Glenmaddy, then in turn getting over the line against I think Gabriel's in the quarter, and then obviously meeting Moore in a semi, which was, some would say, was going to be the tie of the championship, but it didn't end up being because the finals were outstanding. But just again, going back to roles, and I just talk about some of the experience. Like Greg Rogan is there in the capacity of as a sub-keeper. He captained the team in 08. I look at Frank Daly, and like Frank is such an unbelievable example to the young guys, to like his own kids who are coming up through the academy, and to others within the club. He's, again, I said he was involved in '93 in a Mosney team. That's like coming up on 40 years ago.
How's he staying going, Eddie?
Frank just looks after his body. He's naturally fit. He does a lot of conditioning training, and like that, he looks after his body. And Frank was always to the fore. You look at '93. I go back to it. The Mosney 2001. We won the minor A, which again really put the club on a platform to say that we can compete. And I compared sort of to St James's as well, when they went on and won a number of minors, then went and won the intermediate. But going back to Frank, again, he was involved in the intermediates, and that year I remember he suffered a very, what could have been a very serious knee injury, posterior ligament, but he played through it and rehabbed it and got to the pitch of being able to play, and he's still involved now, and not just involved, he's a key member and has been integral. And I listened back to some of your pods earlier in the year, he's been to the fore in terms of teams of the week in, week out, and it's no coincidence, because again, if you fail to prepare to fail, he puts the preparation in. He has the natural footballing ability, and it comes out then on the Sunday or the Saturday when asked.
Just on it, last year, because it was obviously really difficult for you. What was the conversations like when, I suppose, you came to intermediate? Because it's obviously not just as straightforward and as simple to go, we're going to make this return. Like there's obviously devastation, because I suppose previously under Colm Tumman, you get to a quarter final against Down, and you mentioned a minor, and it felt like you were building. And I suppose outside of last year, you were consistently a team who was getting to the knockout stages.
Yeah, I would have perceived or felt that we were a top 8 team and competitive. We've been Division 1 in the league and competitive at Division 1 for the last number of years. With Colm in the first year, I think like that, we got to a quarter final and unlucky not to beat Down in Pearse Stadium on that occasion. And last year then were very, very, had a very difficult group in Mount Bellew, Tuam and
Galway, wasn't it?
Galway, yeah. So it was a really tough group, but we were unfortunate the way things fell, and the new rule put us into relegation. And relegation, we've been in it a lot of times since we came up in 2009, and it's a different ball game. It's winter football. It's dogged, and some teams maybe at the lower end of senior would be more prepared mentally to say that we could be in relegation, whereas a team that might be thinking they might be in a quarter final, when they do get into relegation, it can take a little bit of time to adjust mentally. We played Moore, they bet us very, very well, and I always felt Moore last year, they had a really difficult group, and I wasn't surprised that they actually progressed this year, because they've put in good structures underage. I think they were in a 20s final a few years ago, but I felt that maybe with a few small tweaks. I was surprised that they were in relegation. It's probably because they had a really difficult group. So that was a tough one. We went then out to Spiddle, which was played in England. We were probably lucky to get a result, but it kept us live. And then ultimately played Killannon. And again, Killannon were the better team. But the most positive thing, and I often look at some of the comments that some people make, and Paul Conroy, like the comeback has to be bigger than the setback, and in this case it has been. And I firmly believe, and I would have said that going back to the 2008 team led by like Pat Regan, Peter Curran and John Drouin, like that was the culmination of the 2001-2004 minor A winning teams, and I would have felt like we drove that out and said we're going to be senior. A lot of the players since would have come into a senior environment, maybe like we knew the 5 years that some of us would have spent at intermediate, how difficult it was. Some came in, but maybe it took that one step back to go 2 steps forward. We've seen over the course of the last number of years, teams that have come up have done quite well. Like you see, Dunmore are really, really competitive, really pushed on this year, and others like them. So again, I hope that that's something that we can do next year. I firmly believe that there's an ability within the group, and going back to it, this is their team that they've brought senior, the 2020 minor team, the Dave Canans who lost to Westport under 21 final to Salthill in a replay. These guys are the lads that need to now push on at senior, and they have. Some of them have played in county finals. A lot of them have worn the maroon and white. We see Eamon Brannigan, probably the best game I've seen him play for the club was last Saturday. He was outstanding, and on that form, I know he's in Birmingham, but that's county form that he showed last Saturday. He was unbelievable. I think he
just shows the sacrifices he's made this year to play for Michaels as well.
Yeah, and he probably wouldn't make them sacrifices, only the structures that were put in place and that little bit of man management to make sure that he was putting that effort in. And Mike, to be fair, he's put, like I said, a really good structure around within the club, and he's made sure, like when people see that effort being put in, they make that extra effort, and such is the case with Eamon. But the whole club structurally as well, infrastructurally, we've like lights on the training pitch now. We can see the Westside Park has really come to a new level. We've lights in the training pitch, lights on the running track as well. It's there's really good pillars being put in place. Paddy O'Malley is in as chairman, and Paddy has gone about a fundraising drive to make sure that the club is resourced to compete at senior level, and firstly get back up, but now to compete at senior level. And that's really, really important for any ambitious club that's looking towards competing at senior.
If I can take it to the 2 games against Caltra, like it was unbelievable. I think these 2 games against Caltra were better than anything I've seen even at senior level this year. Like even yourselves, unbelievable to get over the line, but massive credit to Caltra as well.
Yeah, Caltra were outstanding. They came in, they were unbeaten, and like the tradition in Caltra, we all know it. We always found it very, very difficult to beat Caltra when we played them at senior and other levels. Like the Meehans there, the Kilroys, they're just like pure tradition and pure like good footballing people. They obviously won the Andy Murrigan Cup themselves, and they have that tradition, and they're tough to beat. And such is the case. They came into that final. They were unbeaten. We weren't. A lot of people in the media would have sort of said that Michaels had played their final in the semi, which was probably disrespectful to Caltra, but such was the case. Like the final was the last 2 weeks, and they were the 2 best teams in intermediate. Caltra were really, like the first day I would have said maybe I think we were probably unfortunate. I thought we might have been the better team, but the last day Caltra were really, really strong, and it looked in extra time. The little bit of luck with the goal that we got, if it didn't come, we were under a lot of pressure. Conal Gallagher, Dave Cannan both went off halfway through the second half. They were really good the first day, and when they went off, we really had to call on the depth of our squad. And then going back to, I said, the structures that are in place, and the club I know I coached during lockdown, it was under 14, Ronan McGillary and those guys, they were fail at the time. I think it might have been 2019. and then 2020. But you see the likes of these guys coming through. He didn't play much all year. He was studying and had a few minutes during the championship at times. He played a little bit during the league. He was outstanding with the juniors. But even speaking to his dad afterwards, Colm, he was like saying, don't do it to him. It's the pressure of putting this young kid on in such a pressure cooker environment. But what a response. He was made for the big occasion, got the goal, fisted an insurance point that
the composure is something else.
Proud of a 40-year-old doing. He was if we did that in normal time, we mightn't have had extra time. You know, he was brilliant, and I wasn't surprised. And it's the likes of Luca and Aegon are his brothers. A few weeks ago I was doing a political video in Westside. I was waiting for the camera crew to come, and they were an hour late in Galway traffic. And Ronan's brother was down. He came down with 5 or 6 balls. He was kicking football, and I was chatting to him. But that's the club. That's what it's about. And I'm sure, like I said, I was looking up to the likes of Frank Daly, my own brother, Pat Regan, the Moran twins, and these guys. Sean Neville was on that team, and he was again involved last Sunday in stats. But it's them guys that the likes of Luca and these that will be looking up to their brother Ronan and saying, all we want to do is wear the blue and white Michaels, and hopefully they'll be wearing it at senior.
It felt within the 2 games, midway through the second half, that you were in control. You were 4 up on both occasions, and I think people watching it were saying Michaels would come on and hold it, but like that's where credit has to go to Calvert, because both times didn't seem to panic and just threw everything at you.
They did. They literally threw the kitchen sink, everything at us, and there was loads of times from watching it that it looked like we were finally going to bridge the gap and go on and win, but they just never wilted. And you'd often say if someone gets second day they got the goal at a good time, but the last day they didn't get a goal, and they were getting back into it by chipping away with points into the traditional goal that wouldn't be the scoring goal of in the Dublin end and the Dublin Road end. They were chipping away. They were just had some great resolve, and the longer the game was going on, the fitter they were looking. And again, it's testament to our group, the fitness that we showed, and maybe that just little bit of experience, but also that little bit of luck to get over the line. But I always say you make your luck, and those 144 sessions, if we did 143, we mightn't have got over the line. You know, it's that graft. We got a video circulated as well of some of the guys running in Laurel Park last January, and again, you talk about what was the response like to going down. The response was Mike came in, he put a really good team around him. Rico, who's Patrick Casey, was doing the strength and conditioning. John Luan helped with a lot of the pre-season harder running on the grass. Patrick looked at the things on the running on the conditioning on the track. Kevin Tormey, who was overseeing us in the train station, and then Peter is a top coach.
What has he brought? Because he's obviously worked with Anthony Cunningham and Roscommon. That's where people remember him.
Yeah, I would say he's, I've worked with a lot of coaches from in my days in St. Mary's with Liam Salmon right the way through the Galway structures. Probably most coaches that are in Galway I've worked with in some capacity at some point. Peter's right up there as one of the best. The intensity that he brings, and he just brings a passion for it as well. He's just a good guy. He's a likeable figure, and the guys respond to him. But what has he brought? He's just brought a great knowledge of the game, a great draw for it, and the guys have responded to him. We had him in for sessions before, but this year we had him in, and he was fantastic. He was really worked well with Mike. He's friendly with Mike, and I think him and Mike Hochter was involved in the 2020 minor team with Blaine and John Luan. They were both involved, so that was a sort of consistent team from that 2020 team, which was important. But Mike did a lot of the video analysis and presented it so well. I'd say if the lads did 144 sessions on the pitch, I wouldn't like to think the amount of hours that the likes of Mike Hochter, Mike Hughes, Peter Tormey, John Luan did off the pitch, because the detail that they went into in terms of breaking down the opposition's strengths, their weaknesses, are where we can expose opposition was really, really impressive. And that's, again, fine margins, win and lose championships, and that preparation definitely helped us in securing our status again.
Safe to say Sean Kane and Alan Naughton were a right handful throughout both games.
Absolutely, yeah. Sean Kane was like really, really difficult to deal with. He was like a really big man, but can move and intelligent, can score, lovely kick from a dead ball as well. He was very, very effective over the 2 games. I thought Shane Maloney done very well on him the last day. He just seemed to, as the game wore on, Shane grew into it. Because for a man like Sean Kane, you could nearly have 2 marking him. He's really, really effective and can use his body, but he can move as well, to be fair, when he builds it up. And a smart, intelligent player, so he took watching. But I thought Shane Maloney did really, really well. If I was to say maybe the first day Sean got the better of the battle, I would say the second day Shane Maloney did. He was really, really good, and Shane was carrying a little bit of a knock himself as well. And Alan Naughton again had a really, really good battle with Stephen Kerr. A really good player, top scorer, I think, in the championship, and he was outstanding again. He was really, really good again for Caltra, and if they're to go up again, if they're to go up next year, they'll be relying on the likes of Sean Kane and Alan Naughton to be the 4.
At half time and extra time, Caltra go 2 ahead, and it looked as if you're in trouble. But credit to you straight away. You come back, and obviously the goal is crucial in the end. But what do you think got you over the line in the second half and extra time?
I would say the depth in the squad. Like, we were really calling on the all 30 players really. In extra time, you're allowed to name it in U15, and it really, really stood to us. Albeit now Caltra were down to 14, but they didn't look like they were down to 14 in the first 8 minutes of extra time. They looked the team that was going to go and win it. But again, Ethan Ferrantini got hurt in the first 60. He had to come off. Dave Mullally worked on him, got him back to a position where he could play the first 10 minutes, and he was involved in setting up Owen Kern, who in turn laid on to Ronan McGillary, who found the net. So again, it's the depth in the squad that got us over the line. I see Eamon O'Donnell, another guy that was involved in that Westport replay in under 21 a few number of years ago that lost to Salt Hill. He played 14 in the final as well, senior final, but he came on, and first ball that came, he won the kick out, and he won a really, really important ball in the second half again. And it's just that's what you need. You have Damien Connaughton, another lad that was on that team, and Damien is lots of work. He's work commitments in Dublin. He's working with an accountancy firm up there, and couldn't commit last year due to work commitments, but got involved with the juniors this year, showed really, really good form, and played then senior, and it was really effective. And that's going back to, I'm sure Mike worked on trying to get him down, and he obviously liked what he saw when he came down, and he stuck with it and put the effort in, and we got over the line.
You mentioned Dave Kinane earlier on, and credit to the management. I don't think many people would have thought Dave Kinane. Well, it's still hard to know what exact position he is playing in, but he's been, I suppose, closer to goal, which a lot of people wouldn't have expected.
Yeah, it was a different dynamic, but I think we needed to do something different this year and a different, I suppose, outlet. But he's been phenomenal. Like, Dave won an under 21 with Galway at cornerback. He broke into our squad as a midfielder. He would have played fullback for Kevin Walsh in some parts with the senior in league games, and now he was put into full forward, and he's been struggling at times with injuries this year, but when we needed him most, he was a real captain. And Owen Moore, I think, he was outstanding for the 60 minutes, but the 30 minutes he gave against Caltra the first day, when he was targeted as a main man for Michaels, but he was unbelievable. He was like one of the best games I've seen him play for Michaels was the Owen Moore game in the semi-final, but also the first 30, I think, in the first final. And even last Saturday, Dave was calling on every bit of reserve that was there, and at times he won a few balls. He was literally playing on one leg, but he won some frees, he won some balls, and he effectively left everything out on the pitch and couldn't give any more. So it's a great testament to the likes of him. But you have the likes of, again, last week, as I touched on, and we go back to minors, and we were remiss not to mention the likes of Eamon Brannigan and in his group, that they would have won a minor B with Noel Connaughton, and again they were an important cog to this as well. And it's great to see in Keelaghan's afterwards the likes of, the current management group are there. But then you have the 08 management group who are all there. You have the minor management team from 01 were there, the minor management team from 04. Noel Connacht and his group were there. Blaine Sheridan and his group were there. Mike Corbett, Mark Ban is still involved with our group. But it's a recurrent sort of theme that all these guys are there. And then you go back to the earlier days of the club, and you have the likes of Tommy Kelly, Joe Corcoran, Tom Nally. Davy Walsh was there with his daughter. And these are all lads that soldiered for years at the club, and it's lovely to be able to just see those guys with big smiles on their faces leaving Tuam Stadium, because it's more than a game of football for them. It's about going into work the next day and having a smile on their face and pride in their heart that their club is back playing senior football. And next year, when the Frank Fox draw has been done, that we're in the main draw, not the second draw, and that's where we want to be. And I'm again delighted to be involved in some capacity. You said going back to my role this year, before I'd be love to be inside the 4 white lines, but some of my parts is trying to get some funding to build on the infrastructures within the club, to have them in place to be able to compete at the top level, because that's really, really important too. And I think the executives need to be commended. Paddy O'Malley, Dorcan Mannion and Eamon Smith as treasurer, and I think Ollie Sheridan as vice secretary. Like, they supported the management structure this year. They put the package in place to allow them to do what they could do best, was to prepare the team. They prepared the team, and the team responded to them, and that's why I think we won last Saturday.
I got the sense when you mentioned Connell, Gary and all these players, these are the players that I suppose Michaels are going to be built on over the next few years.
Big time, and this is their team. I would say you've likes of Owen Kern was joint captain there, a real leader in the group as well. You have Cathal Maher as well at cornerback, won a minor in 2020. You have Ethan Fiorentini again, broke in, I think in 2020 as a senior, had struggles with injuries the last few years and was pivotal to our success this year. You've Gavin Somerville, his younger brother James was another guy that would have been played with Ronan McGillary. All these guys are the future of the club. I'd love to, and I expect to see Connell wearing a maroon jersey next year. Connell's granddad was on the team at the Millennium for Kerry, Tom Long, his mother's father, and like, he's such good pedigree there, but he's an unbelievable player. And I'm just delighted that he'll be playing senior football. I'm delighted that all those guys will be playing senior football, and they deserve to, because they won 7 games this year, or played in 8, won 6, drew 1 and lost 1. We competed at Division 1 in the league, got to a semi-final, went toe-to-toe Corofin for 50 minutes in that semi-final. So I think we deserve to be where we're at, but it's about putting it in a better place than you got it. And my why in ways was, I know how hard I worked to make sure that St Michael's won that intermediate in 08, and to stay senior was a struggle for large parts. In other parts we were competing quite well at senior, but no way did I want my last part to be in Spiddle last year when we went down to intermediate. It was a tough pill to swallow. So I was delighted just to be back involved, and again to leave that jersey in a better place. I probably wore an intermediate jersey for the first time, I think, in 03 against Clifton in a preliminary quarter-final out in Clonbur, and roll forward so many years now, over 20 years, it's nice to say that maybe, I don't know, the last time I wore a blue jersey at adult level would be to be involved in some capacity in being a senior club. So that's basically the whys in it for a lot of lads. And Greg Rogan would have said very similar, that his experience in the dressing room in Spiddle last year would have been one that, is this it? And obviously it wasn't. And some of the lads gave it an extra year, Jamie Downs as well, and Frank Daly did as well. But I think Frank has a few points to kick in next year's championship. There's no doubt about that. But the main thing is it's in the senior championship, and that's the big take home for me.
It's a quick turnaround this week. 4th week out in a row. Connacht semi-final coming up against Crossmolina, Dale Rovers. How do you see it? Do you see it as a quick turnaround, or do you see it as just going with the momentum now?
It is a quick turnaround, but I think the Connacht series is about momentum, and we will have sore bodies. There'll be some injuries, obviously, but again, going back to the depth of the squad, this is bonus territory now. Our aim was to come back to senior level. We now are a senior club, and it's our first chance to play as a senior club. And look, it's a great opportunity. Traditionally, Galway clubs have done very, very well. We got to an All-Ireland final ourselves, winning in 2009. St James's got there. Carla Strand got there. Mike Cullen got there.
You've obviously seen the benefits yourself of going on a journey here
as well. Oh, definitely, yeah. I think Letcher Moore would have won a Connacht to the Spittle. So it's a journey, and in our clubhouse there's a great photo. I think Barry Cummins did up the collage of the 2008 team, and it's sitting right smack in the centre. It's like you couldn't miss it. It's really centre stage. But if it'd be great if Barry had some time in January to maybe do up another one, and this time to win the All-Ireland, because again you have a lot of regrets in sport. Some of mine would have been maybe losing the Hogan Cup in 2005 was definitely one. I'd say losing a Sigerson semi-final in Cork was a tough one to swallow as well. The Intermediate All-Ireland was a tough one as well, because that was a great team, a great group, and it's such a great opportunity. But this group have had the same opportunity, and the first step in that ladder now of 4 games is next Saturday, and hopefully we grasp it.
Nice occasion to look forward to too.
Definitely, yeah. Again, as I said, it's bonus territory, but it's a great opportunity. It's 2 games to win a Connacht medal, and it's an opportunity to get into a Connacht final, and a lot of lads might never play in a Connacht final again, and have the opportunity. So really need to savour it. They will be back training tonight, do a bit Thursday, and then get the bodies right for Saturday. But I think there's plenty of potential in the dressing room. There'll be some lads maybe that weren't involved that will be involved on Saturday as well, and I'm sure they'll be chomping at the bit and ready to go and build on the momentum and just go for it.
Great stuff. Well, a big congratulations to St Michael's again. They're back senior after being relegated last year. Commiserations to Caltra, and thanks a million, Eddie, for coming on, and the best of luck to Michael's on Saturday.
Thanks, Paul. Talk to you soon.